Before I do anything else, let me correct myself from my vinyl tag video. That was the last video I did. One of the questions there was what was the first record that you got? And I said that I don't have that one anymore. It was a children's record that I got when I was very, very young, and was fables and stories like Emperor's New Clothes, and I said that I don't have that one anymore. Well, I have to correct myself and show you that I just discovered that I actually do. I found that record in my collection. So here is, a little bit late but still, the first record that I got when I was a kid. I got it from my parents, I think. This is Sagans underbara värld, The Wonderful World of Fable. And it is fables like Emperor's New Clothes and the bragging of the moose and the storch and the fox, and fables from the past, I suppose, fables and so on. So, and to be a record that are pretty old, it is actually still in pretty good shape, actually. I think that is because I got it recorded on a cassette also, so the record isn't played all that much, but I'll listen to the cassette version. Hello there, everybody. Space in our collection is a problem for most of us here at the VC. At least that is what I think when I've seen many videos from members of the vinyl community. And of course, even for me, at least now after the success for last year when I bought so many records. So as everybody know, I have the tradition of yearly do a culling sometime around this time in February, and remove records that I no longer feel I need, and make room for new ones. And I don't know how long I will be able to do this, how many years I'll be able to do this culling, and when I come to the limit, when I feel like I can't remove anything more. Those that I have, I want to keep. But on the other hand, not every record that I buy is perfect, of course. So I might be able to remove stuff from the new things that I have bought that wasn't good. So it's interesting to see how long I can push this culling anymore in the future. But for this year, I have been pretty hard and removed a lot of records. So I managed to do a great culling this year. Records that is going to either thrift stores that are giving away, and the jazz records hopefully goes to my friend Otto if he wants to. So let's take a look at what I've been managing to remove this year. I'm not going to show these records that were bought last year and that I've just listened to and realized that these were not good, because they are so new in the collection that they have barely made it into the collection. I just listened to it and realized it wasn't good enough, and I haven't written them in the database yet. So I'm not counting them as part of my collection, so I'm not going to show these, and many of them I've already shown here to VC and said that these ones were not good, like the Godly and Cream records. But here are some of the records I had decided to remove from my collection this year. CDs, CD singles, vinyl singles, and a huge stack of full-length vinyls.
Basse Wickman, an interesting Swedish musician. Paul Rain, this album has only one real good song, Walkin'. This album bought last summer, horrible sleeve, horrible sound. This one is a duplicate, I have this one already. A Hammond organ album that wasn't as good as I thought. Another Hammond organ album that wasn't as good as I thought. Absolute Beginner soundtrack, not many good albums besides David Bowie's song. A breakdance album with a lot of uninteresting songs. Collections, I try to limit my month of collections, which is why I give away my Absolute Music collection. Absolute Music is a famous Swedish compilation series with the best songs of a year, but I feel like I have no use for them anymore. I have most of the songs already on original vinyl. This is an MTV compilation that was not all that interesting. I have most of the songs that were real good, like Madonna. Monster Hits, same compilation with a phony gimmick. Hits album, also great year, but a lot of songs I already have. Visage album was by far the worst album. I feel like I want only the best of them. Dan Tillberg, a Swedish singer, sings Bob Dylan in Swedish. Al Corley, actor from Dynasty series, that was not all that good. Ellen Page, singer with musicals, I'm not interested. Lisa Öhman, Swedish lager singer, not good. Sailor, a disappointment this album was actually. Harold Faltermeyer, good producer but not on his own. Erika, the wife of Yngwie Malmsteen, Army of Lovers, Swedish group that was not all that interesting. Cliff Richard with a pretty weak album with a lot of songs that I have. Kevin Page, singers were good but the album was pretty boring. A Danish group Laban, singers were good here also but the albums were pretty boring. Silver Convention, a 70s disco album that was pretty horrible. The same with Odyssey that I bought in Stockholm in the Solna Fair. Teddy Pendergrass, this album I have a duplicate of. I have two of them. 24/7, that Europe dance group, that album was not all that interesting. Singles were good though. Blue System from Modern Talking, not all that interesting album. Singles were better. Womack and Womack, Teardrops were good, but the album was not. Video Kids, Woodpeckers from Space is a classic, but that's all. Marilyn Martin, bought last year, not all that interesting. Ashford and Simpson, I love them as producers, but this one was too new, too boring. Nicole McLeod, uninteresting soul album. Shack Attack Inventions, by far their most boring album. Ofra Hasa, album that I had for years, but musically it's uninteresting. Final Wax album, a disappointment. Nick Cayman, Move Until We Fly, not all that good. Heart, a great band, but this album, early Heart, were pretty boring. The Outfield, this is by far their worst album. Denise Williams, I've given up on Denise Williams. Point Resistance Contact, Dare Me is a classic, but that's all. Here we have Rod Stewart. I'm not a big fan of Rod Stewart, but this album I can actually, Body Wishes I can bear without. Toto Coelho wasn't all that interesting actually. Eight Cannibals were the only thing that was good. The same with Primitives. The Crash was the best song, but the album was not interesting. Donna Summer, produced by Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones' weakest album. Mark Almond, love him normally, but this album was not all that good. Ready for the World, uninteresting 80s soul. This album was pretty boring. Oh, Sheila was a good song, but I have that one on single already. Peebo Bryson, not the best soul singer actually, so I have removed some of his records actually. And we have a Culture Club. This was not a good album, sorry, but not interesting. E.G. Daily, also a pretty uninteresting 80s singer. Say It was good, but that was all. Kid Creole and the Coconuts I have given up on. Endicott is a good song, but I have that one on single already, so I give up on Kid Creole and the Coconuts, unfortunately. Audrey Landers from Dallas, I have a single by her, that's enough. Album is not interesting. And Carl Lewis, Break It Up was a good song, but the album was not all that interesting. Nolan, totally uninteresting album, the horrible sleeve. Reeperbahn, Swedish group, wasn't as interesting as I thought it would. And I have this D-Mob album already with a doubles album pack, and I feel like I want that instead of this single album. Apollo 440, Do Descending a Staircase, a huge disappointment, wasn't all that good as I thought. Herbie Mann, Jazz Masters release wasn't all that interesting, I won't be needing it. Swedish actress Lena Nyman, very very uninteresting, a disappointment. Dr. Alban, Swedish dance artist, had some good hits, but this album I won't be needing, it wasn't all that interesting. Funk group Galliano, I tried to get to know a bit better, but I given up on them because they were too much hip hop oriented and not all that interesting. Swedish-Irish group Dublin Fair had some good hits, but doesn't hold for an entire album. Too much Irish folk music for me. Norwegian group Frali Polippi, I bought some great album last year, but this one was before they got famous, and then it was horrible produced and uninteresting. Blow Monkeys, Springtime for the World, I bought the vinyl version last year, I don't need a CD version. DJ Bobo, a dance artist, some great songs, but doesn't hold for an entire album. Ned, a Swedish unknown dance project, wasn't all that interesting. Some good songs, but not for an entire album. I like the group The Shamans, more successful albums, like Boss Drum, but this one that was a early Shaman was not all as good as I thought. Tepau, The Promise, this was one of the final albums, and I love Tepau very much, but this album was a disappointment. As was Giorgio Moroder's latest album, Deja Vu, that I bought very cheap, and I don't need it anymore. Plastico, Swedish dance project that was not all that interesting. Swedish Schlager singer Roger Pontare, doesn't hold for an entire album. The songs that I want I have on singles. Bing Crosby wasn't all that interesting as I thought. 505, Swedish band that sounds like the 80s, was a very disappointment. As was Bette Midler, produced by Arif Mardin. This album wasn't as good as I thought, so I won't be needing it. C.B. Milton, a Eurodance artist that sounds like Hathaway, but a whole lot of much more uninteresting songs. Dance compilation that I won't be needing. Party Zone 4. Another compilation with different songs that I already have. Some great songs, no doubt, but I won't be needing compilation. A compilation for the European Championship in Soccer 2000. A lot of great Eurodance, but uninteresting songs. This was a triple CD package with chill out music that I thought would be much more relaxing, but it was very uninteresting. A dance compilation called Quattro Stagioni. Some great songs, but I have no use for compilation box sets. This is a jazz compilation, a box set with a lot of CDs, but some of the most ordinary jazz big band songs. I won't be needing it. And the same goes with this one, with 4 CDs. Sounds great, but some of the most ordinary songs from the biggest names, and I feel like I have many of them already. Starting off vinyl singles with Babies, American Wrestling, I had no idea what this was when I bought it. It was the blind buy around 20-25 years ago. I bought it for the title. Falco, very early Falco. He was way better later on after the Rock Me Amadeus. DC Lee See the Day, a pretty boring ballad that I have no use for actually. I bought it very early. Curdy and a Boombox, Let's Talk It Over in the Ladies' Room. Very cheesy song that I felt like I can't live without. Kevin Page, A Touch of Paradise. Maybe Kevin Page's weakest song. Very pale and pale version of John Farnham single who's way better. Nitro Ebb, Control I'm Here. I realize that I'm no huge fan of industry synth pop, so I have no use for it. Marsha Raven, I Like Plastic, was a blind buy when I was in high school. I kept it since then. House Martins I like normally, but this single Sheep is pretty boring, so I had to sacrifice it for more space. Bobby O, remove the old ones here. Bobby O, A Man Like Me, some kind of a synth pop Italo disco, but not all that interesting actually. I have no use for it. Bjorn Again, this is they perform as ABBA in Australia, and they made a spoof of Erasure-esque of their own singles, not a good one. Chico DeBarge from The Barge, pretty boring soul. Colonel Abrahams, rest in peace, not all that interesting soul music unfortunately, so I have no use for them. We have Miami Sound Machine, Conga. It's a duplicate. I have this one already in a much better copy. Milli Vanilli, Blame It on the Rain. No huge fan of Milli Vanilli, I won't be needing it. Denise LaSalle, My Toot Toot. I don't know which one is worse, this one or John Fogerty's version. I think it's a pretty cheesy song, I have no use for it. Lone Justice, Ways to be Wicked. Bought it a couple of years ago. It was a blind buy, I have no use for it. Real Life, Send Me an Angel in its 89 remix, much better than its original. Simple Minds, Sanctify Yourself, a duplicate. I have this one in a much better copy, in a limited edition version. Temptation, Treat You Like a Lady. 80s Temptation is not half as good as the 70s one. Flip, this was actually a blind buy that wasn't all that good actually. Paul King from the group King, MTV VJ. His first solo single was not all that interesting. Title I Know. El DeBarge, Love Always. El DeBarge, not his best single. Swedish group Bebop. This little 60s sound in the production. Normally good, but this single was uninteresting. Big Money, very early Big Money. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, they became better later on. We're in a stack of Swedish single now, so we take them pretty fast. We have Billy Bolero, we have Kiki Danielsson, and a childhood hit I have no use for, Come On Seva. Uffe Persson, Nästa Weekend, some Schlager. House of Anderson, Attention to Detail, had been with me for many years. Nikolai, total blind buy, I had no idea who this was before I got it. And we have here Paul Ritz and the Piccolos, Tyst Kärlek, also complete blind buy. City, Vackra Damer, Swedish, rock in Swedish. Jerry K. Gustafsson, comedy song. Fingerprints, Make My Day. We have Double Fantasy with their only hit Girl. Willie Crawford from Just Det, before Just Det, not interesting. Clown, also a complete blind buy. We have Shaking Fredrik with Sommar Igen. A late Bon Jovi, Every Day, much better before. Coro, Runaway, Italo Disco, that wasn't all that interesting. 90s Italo Disco. Anders F. Rönnblom, it was a victory in the radio contest that I won, but the single is uninteresting and I remove it for space. Dan Tillberg, Swedish singer, very late one, Nattens sista ängel, no use for it. Another late Bon Jovi, as I said, they were better in the 80s and 90s. Mine, complete unknown single, and Neja, a Swedish dance singer from the late 90s. Stella Getz and their only real hit, Friends, pretty boring song. Madonna, What It Feels Like for a Girl, a duplicate. I have this one already in a better copy, a better release I should say.
here down in my cellar, I have managed to find a new home for some shangers. I switched the bookcase up in my apartment newly, and the old one I took down here to the cellar, and I thought it was a good idea to put some genres that I like very much, but I don't listen to them that much. I don't need them up in the apartment right now, but I want to keep them in my collection, of course. But I have put them in the bookcase here in the cellar for now, and it's good here for the record still, and I can have them here for now. If I want to listen to them, I go down, pick out the record, and goes up again, and so on. It works temporary. So here we have classical singles, different other stuff, talking records, and 60s, and sort of. I haven't made a Shanger divider for a 12-inch, but here is my 12-inch collection. MPB, Brazilian music, poetry, singer-songwriter from Sweden, and musicals. So those are genres that I like very much, but I feel like I can have them in another place here meanwhile. So as you can see, managed to free a lot of space here and here, not to mention here and here. A lot of jazz records will fit in here. Whew, that was a lot of records, and I had trouble finding a way to show everyone without this video being all too long, but I hope that I managed to do it good anyway. There are many records in this collection that I thought, why did I keep them for so long? Because some of them were pretty uninteresting. On the other hand, there were some that were uninteresting, but that I had for so long that are more little nostalgia than really good for its music, like the Offerhaus album that I had for soon over 25 years, but I realized also that musically this album is pretty bad actually, and I felt like I have no reason to keep it. So I hope that you enjoyed my little culling, and that I might give some ideas for other collectors if they're having some kind of a problem with where to spare, where to keep the records when the shelves are getting a little too tight. So hope that you have enjoyed this video. It's soon time for another vinyl and CD update for February. So until next time, take care and have a really nice week, and so long.